stick it in there, get it secure, and only be 10 seconds in. So there's a big story that broke on X yesterday about 4 men in Australia being accused of possession of extremely violent CSAM stroke CP, formerly child sexual exploitation stroke abuse material, and child pornography of the worst types. 4 men accused of the possession of such material, not the production. No accusations from actual people, just possession, and I think maybe some distribution charges. Whitney Webb has talked about the possibility of incriminating people. I was desperately looking through many Whitney Webb videos yesterday, trying to find the place where she says that it could be possible to put incriminating materials onto somebody's network devices, but I couldn't find it. So with that in mind, I have to really be careful when I say Whitney Webb has talked about this, because I actually cannot find the place where she has talked about it. And on the one hand, it's really encouraging to see loads of people, albeit only on X, calling for the death penalty. But in this case, they're actually calling for the death penalty for 4 men who've not been tried yet. We are all of us supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. And in this case, this is possession of CP that they are accused of, not actually the production, therefore rape of children by any of themselves, which 1000% does warrant the death penalty. I don't see how you can sort out the balance otherwise. I mean, there's no deterrent. The problem with this case is that Landon G-Mills is actually himself an investigative journalist independently working to expose corruption in the police and the authorities in Australia. And this, at the moment, seems to be overlooked. He and his friends are having their names and their images dragged through the media as if they've already been found guilty, and they haven't been to court yet. That could happen to anybody. If Landon Mills is who I think he is, you know, I think myself in that situation, if I was innocently accused of those things, perhaps the only good that might come of it would be, oh, this will be the case that will cause us to now bring in death penalty, just as we have medical assistance in dying, euthanasia for the terminally ill, or in Japan you just need to be at retirement age and you're being recommended for euthanasia. In Canada you might just be incurably ill. I believe there was an advert in Canada for one of their maid services a few years ago when they first cleared it at the end of 2022, and there was like an infomercial movie, and the subject of that movie obviously was somebody who was going forward for euthanasia had Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which I also have, so I can understand being the poster child for that movement. It's been discussed in the UK, potentially for terminally ill people. I feel that discussion is incomplete without suggesting that we have death penalty for murderers and child rapists, but this case really probably clearly demonstrates the pitfall of that is, what if you get a wrongful conviction? So if I was Landon and I was innocent of what I'd been accused of, and potentially even accused of those things to be set up to dissuade me from investigating actual child sex trafficking in the authorities in Australia, such as the police and wherever else it has its hands, you know, it's like you have exactly 2 sides of the coin of this argument, which is that we require a deterrent. Anyone that's really been touched by this does not disagree that it should be capital punishment. But on the flip side of it, you have the entire argument against it, which is what about miscarriages of justice? So I find that really interesting. And now I'm going to use cannabis. And that's because I have a prescription for cannabis from a medical herbalist. And if maybe medical herbalists were working with the medical cannabis users in the UK, people would have an easier time with their prescriptions because they'd have a bit more guidance. No, good evening, Moon Boy. I can't do a backflip. Actually, you know, I very rarely use my vaporizer, my dry herb vaporizer on here online. It's like, this is oil that I make. It is for personal use, unless I'm giving it as a gift. For example, my hairstylist enjoys using this on her neck, and it's really good topically, but it can also be used in hot drinks. I haven't burnt cannabis in coming up 2 years, 2 years in April. In fact, the day that I had my hair locked was the very last day that I ever smoked. And what made the difference for me was I got dry herb vaporizer. Because prior to that, I could stop, but I couldn't stay stopped if it was around me. But I won't actually do that because it feels like vanity streaming. Like, you don't need to see me. All that's going to happen if I use this is I'm going to just bring up loads of fluid that's coming off my sinuses and hitting the back of my throat and making me cough, and then I'll bring it up as if it comes off my lungs, but it's coming off my sinuses, so I probably won't. But you know, like, we probably have this like epidemic of loneliness or some almost as if accidental social isolation going on, not for everybody, but for numbers, including me. So I do feel like streaming just to be somewhere talking to somebody. Hello. Hi, people. Well, look, all right, let's not, because some very helpfully people asking in the chat, saying hello and asking questions. And all right, this isn't a channel to be vaporizing drugs. Like, it's not for everyone. I need to do it in private. Please look into this Landon G-Mills case. I'm using an abbreviated version of his name. It's a much longer name because it's very interesting how, albeit maybe 50% of the comments on X are bots, and Reddit and as well, but it's the fundamental thing is every single person has the right to be assumed innocent until proven guilty. In this case with Landon, and we saw this with Luigi, these guys are guilty until proven innocent. We have a problem with that. And look at the thumbnail of this video. Moon Boy, I can make it a social stream, but also I feel like maybe not, maybe just leave it at this. Like, I feel like this is worthy points to be made. There's a link in the description for Landon's underground media network online. Yeah, I think probably like tons of comments from people have been bots. I don't know. But no one is guilty until proven innocent. That's just not how law works. Bye. I'll come back if you want me to. Leave a comment under this video saying come back and I'll come back. But I don't want to do vanity streaming. And also that's very annoying when that wobbles, isn't it?